today I'm in my studio with my son Jonathan, who's going to be my little helper today. We're working on a very kid-friendly project. It's easy and fun, and I'm going to teach you all how to make an Olympic gold medal. You can definitely do these also in bronze or in silver if you'd like, but they're great fun for the kids to play with. You can do obstacle courses for them, have them practice playing maybe some of the sports that are on the Olympics that you'll watch on TV together, and then you can award them with their very own fabric gold medal. Let's start with the supplies that we'll need and jump right into making our project. So first we're going to create our template. I'm going to put the CD down right on whatever I'm using. I have poster board here. Now Jonathan, can you trace around this big circle please with a pen? Go for it. Like that. And go all the way around. Good job. Now we need to cut that out. Let me grab some paper scissors.
No need to only one color.
Oh, you want me to use the rotary cutter? I'm going to use the scissors so we can get it nice and close. So now we have our template piece cut out. We need to cut 2 circles like this out of our gold fabric. So you can cut them out one at a time if you want, but I'm just going to double up my fabric and cut once so I can end up with both my circles. Alright, so we're going to put our template here. Can you put the weight on top please? Right on top. Thank you. And so I'm going to go with a rotary cutter. You can also mark around this with a pen and then just cut it out by hand with a pair of scissors. Okay, so we've cut out our 2 circles from our gold fabric. Now we can set that aside and we're going to start working on the fabric that you're going to use for the neckband. Jonathan, which color you want to use, rojo or azul?
Black.
So I've cut out one piece here. It's a rectangle, measures 2 inches by about 4.5 inches. And what you're going to do is fold it in half lengthwise. And I'm just going to do this with my hands, but you can press it with the iron. Then reopen it and then bring in the ends towards that center crease line. And what we're doing here is hiding the raw edges and then refold it again down that center line. You're going to end up with a little strip like this. And now you want to go with a straight stitch on your sewing machine and just stitch this shut right down here. So I've sewn that little strip down. Now I'm going to fold it in half so to make like a little loop here. Okay? And I'm going to put the raw edges sticking out at the top of one of my circles. Just fold your circle in half, make a crease right there, and then when you reopen it, you'll have that center mark that you can line this up with. And you only want about 1 inch or so of this loop going inside the circle. I made the strip a little bit longer to begin with because it's just easier to work with than a small little piece, but you want to have about 1 inch hanging inside, okay, towards the center of the circle. The folded part is going towards the center of my circle, and I stitch it real close, only about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge of my circle, okay, because I want in the seam allowance this to not show up. So I'm going to trim this away now. Now we're going to put them together with the pretty sides touching, one circle over the other. Good job. And if you have a fabric that you can pin, go ahead and pin. And this is just going to help you to keep a nice round circle when you're sewing, because you want that medal to look nice and round. Now, what I need to do is make a mark where I need to leave it open, meaning I'm not going to sew in one little spot. When you're working with something that's round, I find that the smaller you can keep that opening, the better it's going to be, so that you don't distort the overall finished shape. So I'm only going to leave probably about 3/4 of an inch or so just open. So I'm not going to stitch right here. And that means I need to start on one end, back stitch to secure those stitches. I'm going to stitch all the way around using about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. And then I'm going to come back to the other end of my mark and stop right there and back stitch again. And so we'll only end up with this little bitty opening right here. I've sewn all around my circle here. I went back stitching a little bit over the part where the tab is just to reinforce that. And then I have my little opening right here. Make sure that the opening is not too small, but I'll still be able to flip this inside out through there. So at this point, if you have too much of a seam allowance, go ahead and trim some of it away. In this case, I stayed pretty consistent there with the 1/4 inch. And now what you're going to do is carefully turn this whole thing out through that little hole. It might take you a little while, but just work with it. Then I just like to run my finger on the inside and just push out all that fabric, that seam. And if you're working with a fabric that you can press with an iron, go ahead and do that as well. That will help. Now it's time to stuff our medal. And you just want to take your time, just continue to fill that up until you get the medal as stuffed or as flat as you want it. I've just taken a needle and some thread here. I'm using black just so you all can see it on camera. If you don't know how to do some hand sewing like this, it's real simple. I'll link to the tutorial I have right here on hand sewing basics. And all you're going to do is tug a little bit on the ends to get those raw edges to hide inside the metal. And then I'm just going to whip stitch this shut. Now to make this strap, you're going to need some fabric. I cut a strip here that measures 2.5 inches by 25 inches. You can just gauge it like that or on your child's neck and see how long you want to cut it. Now what I did was fold it in half lengthwise. I do want you to note that this strip gets folded in half lengthwise with the pretty sides touching if you're using a decorative or like a print fabric that has designs on it. But this fabric is the same on both sides, so it don't really matter. And I'm going to stitch this all the way down 1/4 inch away from this raw edge. Now that that seam has been sewn, you're going to get your big safety pin and you want to run it just through one side. So either this side or this side. I'm going to put it in and I got to pinch the fabric, okay? So I'm doing it on the back side here. Notice it's not going through this front piece, just the back. And then you'll close your safety pin, push the head of the safety pin in through the loop, and just keep pushing it and pushing it until you come out on the other end, and this is going to allow you to turn this entire tube inside out. Just keep pulling this part and working with it so that it turns your whole thing inside out. When it comes out on this end, just give it a pull. Then it looks like this. You want to roll it in between your fingers and press it down with your iron so you can get this to lay flat. Now for a kid's project, I don't worry too much about these edges here. If you want, you can just trim them down a little bit before we attach our Velcro. For the Velcro, you want to make sure that you're doing it so that it overlaps like this and it hangs nicely over the child's neck. So just put it how it would hang normally and then put one over the other. So if it goes like this, turn this side under, and I know this one needs to be sewn here, okay? And then this one needs to be sewn on top so that when they overlap, I get one continuous loop for the whole neckband. I don't worry about the raw edge. What I'll do is when I stitch this down, I'll just use a zigzag stitch, and when I run right up next to this edge here, it'll conceal that from further fraying. So just do a zigzag stitch all the way around, remembering to back stitch wherever you start and end to secure those stitches. Okay, so I've zigzag stitched around the Velcro on both ends. So we're just going to slip it in through here, and there it is. Our Olympic gold medal. I hope you all enjoyed this tutorial and that you'll consider giving this a try. If you enjoyed this project, go ahead and hit this video with a thumbs up. Also be sure to check out the other YouTube creators who are also posting some Olympic style videos as part of Invade London. And to make sure you don't miss out on any of my new video tutorials, go ahead and click right there so you can subscribe to my channel. I'll see you next time. Say bye.
Bye. Nana, playtime.
Now is playing time. Yes, you can play.
Bye, can I play?